This is not a financial responsibility thing. This is how to make money so you can waste it on.
Right.
Also, and if it's okay, I'm just going to record it. I record it mainly for myself because nobody ever watches it. But I want to be able to go back, and if I say something really good, I want to be able to remember it. So, if you don't have any, if you have any information you do not want to share, don't share it, I guess is the best thing. Okay, thank you guys so much for showing up. And here's what I'm going to tell you is it's the class is called the WOW Experience, the WOW Blueprint. And I also sell a course called the WOW Experience. This is the only sales I'm going to do to you, okay, is right now. So this is the blueprint. So this is basically, this is going to be the outline. Now, if you were walking down the street and you saw a bundle of blueprints for buildings and it said worth $1 million, take for free, what would you do?
I'd take one.
You would take one.
I would
right?
question it.
You'd question it. You'd be like, this is Candid Camera or something. Yeah. But okay, let's just say that you actually had access to these architectural blueprints and they were 100% for free to you, but they were worth $1 million. You would take one?
There you go.
And then what would you do with it?
I would have to figure out. Well, so that's the thing. It's like when I see something that's like, oh, this Beanie Baby's now worth thousands of dollars, or this special comic book, I'm like, okay, yes, but to who? It's only worth that if somebody out there is interested in buying it for that amount.
Sure, 100%.
So
yeah.
My first step would be like, okay, to whom is this valuable?
Right. To whom is it valuable? But the more important thing is, literally, what are you going to do with a blueprint? Find a contractor. The contractor is going to look at it and go, what? Here's the thing. Most of the time we find a blueprint, we'll take the blueprint because it's free and it looks cool. But what do we do with it? Nothing, because we don't know what to do with it. So that's kind of what this is. I'm going to introduce you to all these concepts of really wonderful things that are actually going to, if you walk out of here and do nothing other than just remember the first page, man, I feel like I've done a great job. However, it's the scratching the surface. You get the blueprint. What do you do with it? You got to build something with it for it to be worthwhile. You can give it to somebody else and have them build it. And then at the end of it, you'll go, well, why didn't I do that? How many people in this room, of the four of us, have had an idea and went, that's my $1 million idea, and then somebody else did it? Have you ever had that happen? No?
No, but I think I find products later that I'm like,
that's what I'm saying.
That I'm like, oh, why didn't I think of that? It makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't so much thinking about it, it was actually executing on it. So I say all that just because, I do want to sell my class, and it's wonderful. It's an 8-hour, it's a workshop. You have a workbook. You go through the workbook. At the end of it, you have all the tools you need to be able to give great customer service. But this is great, and thank you so much for showing up for this. So let's start with some introductions. I'll start with myself because I find that that's easiest, and you have to figure out why the hell you're in this class talking to me as opposed to talking to somebody else. Well, the class is free. That's one thing. But the other thing is my name is Stuart Rice. I have 25 years of sales and other types of sales experience. So I started off at a company called Fry's Electronics. And I ran their video game division and took that division from $50 million to $250 million in 18 months. That's a pretty good, that's a big accomplishment for me. Have you guys ever heard of the game Dance Dance Revolution? Did you ever buy a copy of it? Yeah. You can thank me for that. I actually brought that to the United States. So there were some really great things, and I learned a great deal doing that experience. From there, I actually went to work for Standard TV and Appliance. And I took their TV and mattress business. I doubled their business within 12 months. And then for the mattress business, I actually quadrupled it over the next 2 years. So, and then I went to work for the largest bedding supplier in the United States, and I was an award-winning trainer there. So I do have some... The largest bedding, mattresses.
Okay.
So for 12 years, I worked for a mattress company that was the largest in the world, and I'm actually an award-winning trainer through them. So I have, there's reasons that I've been around 25 years. I have had some really good experiences, and I'm willing to share that with you. So some of the things I've learned over that time. So I don't tell you that to intimidate you or anything like that. I just want you to know you're in good hands. I've been doing this for a long time, and I just want you to understand that. Do you mind starting?
No, absolutely. So my name is Heather Zinn, and I'm here because I'm with Northwest Accounting Partners, and Amanda is having
Made
us
you to come.
take the class. I don't know that I have any expectations.
Okay.
I've recently re-entered the workforce after being home for almost 19 years.
Okay. Wow. Well, that's probably the hardest work, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Well, here, Heather, what I would suggest is what your expectation should be is no expectation. Always have no expectation.
Yeah, because then you're not
you're not disappointed.
You're impressed with all of it. Yeah.
I find pessimists are the happiest people in the world because you always go into it just expecting the worst, and then sometimes it doesn't happen. It's kind of great. But what you can expect is, are you dealing with customers over the phone? Are you dealing with customers at all?
Clients,
your
absolutely.
accounting clients. This will help you, and it's not going to teach you anything brand new. It's all it's going to do is trigger things for you that go, oh yeah, I should be doing that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, let me try to do this with this person and see what happens. So that's great. I'm excited to see what you think at the end of the class.
So in my previous life, I managed Food for Less for 10 years.
Okay. Oh, so you have retail experience. Man,
I
we'll talk about retail and
retail.
Some of the things what I will say is probably within this, there's going to be a couple things I say that you're going to be like, I wish I knew that.
Probably, yes.
What did you say, like 15 years ago? No, I'm kidding. You said 19 years ago.
Wow.
My name is Jack Wright. I also work at Northwest Accounting Partners, and Amanda signed us up for the class.
Yeah, that's great. It's actually pretty wonderful that she did that for you and for me. So,
and it's walking distance for us too. So.
Yeah, if it really gets if it gets tedious, you can get it.
And kind of like Heather said, I didn't really have any expectations for the class, but now kind of thinking about like sales and dealing with customers. One of my clients, I deal with their customers because we kind of act like an office for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm like gonna start thinking about, like, during your whole talk, like how I might be able to integrate some of that into dealing with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you do kind of think of like something you do want to accomplish today, go ahead and write it down.
Oh yeah.
And the reason is because if I don't if I'm not scratching that itch, I want to scratch that itch for you. Like I do. That's something I do want to do. Great. Thank you so much.
Okay, my name is Michelle Card. I'm with Apollo and Reuter, and I'm here because Aaron had me signed up. Great. And I didn't have any expectations until that wonderful intro, so now I have a lot of expectations.
Fantastic. I love, you know what, I personally love it when people overestimate me. I know it's real easy when people underestimate you. It's real easy to just kind of go, oh, I can overdo that, Right. But I date too, so I like to do that on dates. I mean, I like to over accomplish things, but honestly, I like it when people have really lofty expectations of me, and then it gives me an opportunity to kind of try.
Bring it.
Okay, so great. Thank you guys so much. So there's going to be two core concepts that we really always are going to stick to. If I ever stray from these two core concepts, I want you to raise your hand and say, but because I feel pretty confident, I'm going to stick to these two because they're ingrained into me. And the first one is the platinum rule. And who's familiar with the platinum rule? No one's familiar with the platinum rule, but you're probably familiar with the golden rule. And what's the golden rule? Yeah, and some people think that's like biblical. It's not. It's, interestingly enough, it's not a biblical statement. But let me tell you why I think the golden rule is the absolute worst, stupidest thing that you can follow in your entire life. Now, I know we all knew it immediately. Golden rule. Oh, do unto others as they would have done unto me. Here's the problem with that. Are you me?
No.
Nope. Am I you? No. how do I know that what I like and what I prefer is something that you're going to like and you're going to prefer? I don't. And there are times where I want to be like, a lot of times when I'm in a sales situation and I'm the buyer, that I am very much like, let's get this going. I don't need the pleasantries. I'm here for a transaction. So like, let's get right to the point. And I have had so many times where I've had the salesperson who's really gabby talk to me, and it drives me nuts. So the golden rule is not a good rule to follow. A better rule to follow, and probably the rule we should all follow, is the platinum rule, which is treat others the way they want to be treated. Sound good?
Right.
Yeah. So that is the platinum rule, is treat others the way they want to be treated. And I know it's like, but I don't know how they want to be treated. Well, there's ways to uncover that. You can spend a very short amount of time with people and figure out kind of where they're at. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So that's one of the big concepts I like to break for people, is that the golden rule is not great. The other one is the customer's always right. Is the customer always right? No. In fact, customers 9 times out of 10 are wrong, and like wildly wrong. And they say the dumbest things, don't they? Yeah. I mean, how many times in retail when you were at Food for Less where people would be like, the tuna fish would be right here, and they'd be like, where's the tuna fish? And it's like, God, you are the dumbest person I know. Thank God people are dumb. Do you know why? It gives us a job. You guys have the dumbest, you probably get the dumbest questions on accounting. Trust me, at some point, hopefully if I sell enough of these classes, I'm going to be coming to you and I want you guys to do my accounting. But I'm probably going to ask the dumbest questions. And the reason that that's good is because you guys can answer them, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So thank goodness for dumb questions. You get dumb questions all the time from whom? Who do you get dumb questions from?
See, I was raised to believe that there's no such thing as a dumb
There are dumb questions.
So.
Which are the questions that get you to secretly roll your eyes in the back of your head?
Well, actually, this is an industry I'm still learning about.
Okay,
so
fair enough.
I don't know that
I can tell you right now that when I was in front of all the plumbers and the techs, and I would ask them a question, those guys were not shy about rolling their eyes. It was audible.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's the thing. Customers are not always right. I think that is a bad misconception, because if a customer comes in and says, well, I heard everything was half off today. If the customer's always right, what happens? Everything's half off.
Right.
Like that's not a good concept. I will, however, say that the customer always comes first. Right. So whatever we're doing, even if it's against a company policy, my guess is that you will never get fired for taking care of a customer in a reasonable manner. Okay. So whatever we're doing, we're going to be customer first. It's got to be first and foremost, it's got to be the best for the customer. So those are the two core concepts that we're going to be talking about throughout the entire thing. Now let's talk about sales. And who are salespeople? Like, how do you describe a salesperson? Your dad. Tell me about your dad.
My dad's a beer and wine salesman.
Okay.
Since forever.
Okay.
He's worked for various beer distributors down in California, and now he's basically an independent contractor for various companies.
Sure.
Doing like pasta sauces, tequila,
Let
wine.
me see if I can fill up your racks with all my wares.
And he's just stupidly good at it.
Good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You know what would be interesting? Have him take the class and tell me all the things I'm doing wrong. I'm sure, you know what would happen is I actually do like to get salespeople that have been around for a really long time, like high performing salespeople. You'll run into bad salespeople that are, I've been doing this for 20 years. And it's like, I don't know why. You're not very good at it. But when I do talk to people that are high performers, it is wonderful, and it takes it to a next level. It's like Jedi level talking, and it's wonderful. I love it.
Yeah, his like highest, or like the most impressive thing I remember him doing was the first month or two he was working for this wine company that he hadn't worked before, and it was during Lent. And during Lent, he always gives up alcohol. And so he's selling their wine, just like describing it, and just, selling cases and cases every day of this
Right.
wine he's never had.
That's, you know what? I just a real quick aside. So I sold big screen TVs, right, when I was really young, and at home I had a 19-inch tube TV that I bought from Goodwill that occasionally would show a channel, and I did not have cable, so I plugged in whatever dumb console I was playing at the time.
Right.
Anyway, you get my idea. So I would be at these stores talking to people about these big 50-inch projection TVs that were umpteen $1,000s, and they would be like, "Oh, what do you have at home?" And it would be like, "Well, the TV I really want is right over here," because I talking about the one at home was kind of silly, but that's fantastic. And who else has a concept of like what a salesperson is, or like even if you close your eyes, like what do you picture as far as a salesperson? Last class I was in, the guy goes, "You." I was like, "Thank you." I think, I don't know.
I feel like I have mixed emotions when you say salespeople, because I think half of it, I'm like, there's always the salespeople that are trying to talk you into something that you're like, no, I really honestly don't want that. And car salesman, like there's that.
Hey, what's it going to take to get you to get this undercoat today?
Right. And then you're like,
because of where you're shopping.
Yeah. I just think, right, it either has like a really like, oh, they were super helpful, or like that was the worst experience and they didn't understand what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was like, no.
So I have a lot of anecdotes, and most of my anecdotes, believe it or not, are not professional. They're as me as a customer. And I've learned just as much buying stuff as I have selling stuff. And one of the biggest things I remember is when I was young, I think I was like 8 or 9, my dad and I went out to fly a kite. But there's more to the story. It's not just about kites. So we go out to fly a kite. We fly a kite for a little bit. We get bored. And we're driving home, and my dad goes, he didn't say anything. He just pulled into this car lot, and it's a Toyota car lot. And he's like, I want to look at a car. I was like, cool. I'm 9. I have no option. So we get out of the car. We talk to the sales guy. The sales guy's very energetic, and he says, "Oh, you need a Corolla." And he takes us right over to the Corolla, and my dad gets into it. My dad's not super tall, but his head is right up at the top. And he goes, "I'm not comfortable in this car." And the sales guy goes, "Oh, but this car's got everything you need, blah, 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 blah." And my dad says, "But I'm not comfortable. I feel crouched and cramped in this car." The guy says, "Well, only the smartest people in the world know how to buy a car. And this is the car, blah, 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 blah," right?
Wow.
My dad says, "Thank you." We get back in the car, drive 2 blocks down the street, get out at the Mazda dealership. And my dad says, "I want to buy a car." The guy says, "Well, let me show you a couple." Shows him one, shows him the other. Oh, shows him a 626, which is the big sedan. Too much. Shows him a 323. It's the right size. We bought 2 of them. So what I learned from that is don't try to sell. Selling is not about like, I'm going to convince you into doing something. That is not what sales is. And that's what the guy at the other dealership, he probably had to get rid of that car. It was maybe one that had been sitting around because everybody got into it, went, feels small. Whatever the reason is, he didn't listen. He tried to do all the things that salespeople do, right? The gold medallion. My gold medallion's under my shirt right now. So yeah, that happens, right? And we have that picture of that salesperson, and that's a very real picture for us. You ever seen that movie Glengarry Glen Ross? No? Oh God, it is the best / worst sales movie on the planet. It makes my skin crawl, but it's so good. It's got Jack Lemmon in it. It's got all these really great. Alec Baldwin has a great monologue in it. I highly suggest it. It is the worst sales movie because there are some of the worst tactics, and these guys are the most smarmy, like salespeople you'll ever meet. So yeah, unfortunately, that's the case. In reality, though, who are salespeople? We're all salespeople. You're married?
Yep.
Salesperson. Got kids? Salesperson. Have a cat? No, you're not selling the cat. So that's one of the things I want to get off of this perception of there are, born salespeople. No one is born a salesperson. People are born, they get certain skills raised. Maybe they're charismatic, maybe they're witty. I was witty. Charismatic, maybe not so much, but I was witty. And so like I was able to do that very quickly. And that was just because I watched a lot of Carol Burnett as a youngster, right? So good salespeople are not born. Good salespeople are taught. And so everybody can be a good salesperson. And those really charismatic, those really witty people actually are some of the worst salespeople because they don't do the things that actually really count for customers. So keep that in mind. And what is the definition of the job of a salesperson? How would you define what a salesperson does?
They have a product and they sell it.
You don't have a product. You have a service that you guys sell.
Yeah, that's our. I guess that would be our in lieu of a product. Yeah,
Sure.
Service.
Yeah.
Product or service.
Product or service, and you sell it. Like you exchange money for said product. Fair enough. Okay. What do you guys think? How would you define what a salesperson does? Your dad is a salesperson. What does he say?
I don't know. I don't really ask.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah. It's okay. And I don't know is a complete sentence that I absolutely take too. So it's okay. Heather, any?
Well, I think that, I mean, obviously somebody who can make money off of whatever it is they're doing, typically.
Sure.
But I think that half of it is finding out what that person actually wants to buy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all of that stuff is true. Having something and selling it, absolutely part of sales. Understanding what the customer's desires are and having something to give them to it, fulfill that is also a big deal. I want you to write this one down though, because this is the best definition of sales that I could come up with. Sales is building the customer's confidence to a point where they can make a decision. Now, how does that set with you? Yeah. That's basically what we do is, I'm not saying we play a con game because we've all seen The Sting, and that's not what we're doing, right? What we're doing is we're giving the customer information. We're letting the customer know that what they're doing and how we're conducting and everything that we're doing, our actions, our words, we're helping them feel really, really good about making a decision. Now, does that decision have to be a yes? No. I don't care if a customer decides not to buy from me as long as they do it with confidence.
Right.
Oh, you know what? I found out, I had a friend last week watch this for 15 minutes. He watched it and I saw him blip out, right? And I was like, he said he was going to stick around. I called him afterwards and he was like, yeah, sorry, man. I realized I don't want to do sales anymore. And I was like, you know what? You feel real confident about that? He's going to go do IT. That's his thing he wants to do now. And I'm like, you know what? That's great.
Oh.
Good. I'm glad you figured that out. It's not really the thing I was hoping to get, but I'm happy that you were able to make a decision there. So that just holding on to that definition and understanding that is really key to taking a lot of stress out of sales. Because if your job is not to, hey, I need to sell, which is the worst expression in the world, I need to sell ice to an Eskimo. Because why does the Eskimo need ice? Why do you feel good about selling the Eskimo something that they don't need? You shouldn't feel good about that. That is not a good salesperson. That's not a noble salesperson. That's a grifter. And we don't want that. I don't want to be that. I'm tired of salespeople having that negative connotation.
Right.
When I'm when I'm at a cocktail party or I'm at a party and someone says, hey, what do you do? I try to find every word other than sales. Two words you never want to use when you're talking to somebody brand new. You never want to use the word salesperson. You also never want to use the word expert because people hate those two things. Oh, I'm an accounting expert. Don't say it. Because then you'll end up talking about accounting. It's not good.
We don't do taxes.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. You're like,
Taxes.
And why can this class help you? Well, it can help you in all sorts of different aspects. I use concepts from Eastern philosophy in this class, and I'll be talking about a lot of that. I don't know if you're dating, but dating, this all also works? Married?
Married.
Oh, well, if you're married, you're going to have all sorts of good things to be able to do. And seriously, though, like looking for jobs, any sort of things like that, it's all an aspect of sales. It's not just selling your services or your wares. It's also whatever you're trying to accomplish. You need to do it in a way that helps somebody make a decision. Okay, so down at the bottom of this sheet, there is something called S.E.L.L. And that is show up, engage, listen, and lead. You don't necessarily have to write this down because that's all the next 4 pages are.
Perfect.
And this is a nice little acronym my business partner came up with to just kind of give us a guidance of what we should be doing and how we create what I like to call a wow experience. And have you ever had that wow experience with a salesperson?
That's just so funny because that's the new thing that they want us to use at Apollo. That it's even on our magnets now. It's wow, providing wow through service. And when I first heard it, I was always like, you gotta be kidding me. I thought it was the most cheesiest thing.
Yeah.
But then I heard a commercial on the radio, and somebody else was like, "This is a wow savings of," and it's.
Yeah, I mean, it gets overused, but I do like it when a customer. I've actually had the customer go, "Wow."
Yeah.
Oh, not a good. No, I feel like this is a tremendous experience. That wow, thank you.
We lost our hot water heater. And yeah, the wow, like I called and they were like, we'll be out in 2 hours. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, wow.
Wow.
Yes, because hot water.
Yeah.
Gotta have it.
You gotta have it.
Yeah. And how do you think that person on the other side of the phone feels?
Hopefully they were like, yes.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. They feel fantastic. When you find out you've done a good job, I like to get patted on the head.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I want to experience with every single customer every single time. Is it reasonable to expect that? No. What's reasonable is to try. And that's the biggest thing. Not every customer can you do it with because some customers are mentally ill and you're not going to fix it. You cannot fix crazy. That is just not going to happen. All right. So the first part is showing up. And it's, it's not just being there on time. I honestly have a hard time with that. I do struggle with time. It is a weakness I continually work on. Awful. But showing up with an intent is kind of even more important. Well, it's probably about the same amount of importance, right? So we want to make sure we're there, we're prepared, we have everything all squared away. But the most important thing is in your brain. And this is taking the sales awkward into sales awesome. This is the number one thing I can say is going to help with that. I actually talked to someone who just entered into the job market a couple of days ago. And he was like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing with every customer. I feel so scared. Every time I talk to them, I've got all this anxiety. And I'm like, well, it's because in the training you've received or lack thereof, they didn't tell you how to feel good about what you're doing so that when you do talk to someone, you are prepared. So I want to talk a little bit about fundamentally how to be prepared, and then also on a day-to-day basis, how to be prepared. And fundamentally, it's funny because I talked to Amanda about this, and you guys don't have these 3 things, which is something I'm actually going to help develop for you.
I was like, I don't know if we have.
Yeah. So these are 3 statements. Have you ever heard of them before? A mission statement, vision statement, a value statement. So what's a mission statement?
Like, this is who we are.
Yeah, this is what we do.
Yeah.
Most importantly, this is what we do. For Northwest Accounting, I'm working on it where it's, it's customized, and I've got notes someplace that I'm working on 3 different mission statements for you guys. But basically, it's what we do and what's a good mission statement. Have you ever heard a good mission statement?
I don't know by heart, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Nike's got a really good one. It's something getting the world to exercise or something like that, and that's a really good mission statement. For Impactful, mine is to help individuals and companies get to their next level in a sustainable way. Because I want, as much as I like repeat business, I honestly want to give them the tools so that they can actually accomplish that on a day-to-day basis. So the mission statement is what you do, and finding a way to present that. And on an individual basis, I totally think you can do this as well, right? Mm-hmm. I think we should all have our own individual mission statements. I think that's really kind of key. Vision statement. And what is a vision statement? How would you describe a vision statement?
Like where you want to go.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Where you want to go. I want to be the most accurate accounting person for this account that's ever been on their account. Is that a good vision statement? Mm-hmm. No, it's a terrible vision statement. It's too small.
It's not really quantifiable.
Huh?
Like you need to be more specific.
Well, you need to be actually in a vision statement. You can just make something wild, like I want to be the best accountant on the West Coast, or whatever it is. Like realistically, what is it that you actually want to accomplish? I recently had to build a business plan for Impactful because it didn't exist. We didn't have mission, vision, or values. There's a reason I'm with the company now. The vision there is that we're going to be the number one resource for training and business strategy in the Pacific Northwest. I feel really good about that. I do feel like it's a slow build. It starts with 3 people at a time in a room, but eventually that will happen as long as the content is good. You're going to help me out with that too. So a vision statement is, what is it you really want to accomplish? And be bold, and never settle for, hey, we're going to be the number 3 accounting firm in the Portland metro area, is a horrific vision statement. I remember when I was a buyer at Fry's, there was a company called Ubisoft. And at the time, they were like a kind of a small French developer at the time. But they came in and they said, we want to be the 3rd largest developer of video games on the planet. And I was like, 3rd? I mean, it's still a pretty lofty goal, but
it's very specific.
I guess, yeah. But always aim for being number 1, and there's a lot of reasons. And one of the biggest reasons you always want to aim for number 1. Do you know what the biggest reason is you want to aim for number 1? Like, why does Apollo want to be the number 1 plumber on the East Side? Because what happens when the economy starts to drop? And we see that occasionally,
the ones
right?
on top make it.
Yeah, the ones at the top always, the large eat the small. That's what always happens. So you always want to be the number 1. So that's always what your aim should be. You could be, maybe the aim is the largest in Gresham. That would be awesome. I don't know if that's true, but I would say
we're gonna find out when we make those.
That's right. And then a value statement. What is a value statement? You guys know? It's how you conduct your business. So a lot of times people put up, I remember there was one company that I worked for that had this stuff plastered all over the place. It was loyalty, family, honesty. There was 6 of them, right? And then the owner of the company got caught for tax evasion.
Oh, brother.
And cheated on her husband, and they got a divorce. It was just like everything that you look, no. All right, well, that tells you how that was.
Right.
Well, I mean, it was plastered, like it was painted on a large wall. Like,
they were free posters.
Yeah, exactly. Awful. So the value statement helps you so that if it just keeps you on that, the golden path, right? You're not going to jump off anywhere. So having these 3 statements for yourself personally is really cool. It's really cool. Make sure you got them in your company too, and know what they are, because it actually helps guide you in however you're going to conduct your business on a day-to-day basis. That's just part of that preparation. Who is it that you want to work with? And this is kind of like, who is your ideal customer, right? And we all, what would be your ideal customer?
So that's for us. It's everybody and anybody is our ideal. If you've got a plumbing problem, you're ideal.
Sure. Yeah, but I've heard some of the plumbing stories
Well, okay,
But-
if you're looking for like super ideal, like
yes.
okay, you know, the clogged toilet's great, but your huge sewer line that needs to be taken care of and lined, that's obvious. That's more ideal just because it's more money.
Right.
But you know, we're out to help everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I could imagine your ideal customer would be someone who has enough of a plumbing situation that it would be sustainable work. Like maybe they also do business. They also, you know, whatever that person has money to pay for it, I'm sure is kind of a big deal.
Right.
Right. And we
Yeah.
forget about that. Like what qualifies a customer to buy stuff? Money. That is the only thing that qualifies a customer to buy stuff from us, is that they have money. So we want to make sure that we're really targeting, and for you especially because you're in the marketing department, targeting that customer. You're going to get all of those other customers, but you really want to get all the ones that you really want to get. Does that make sense?
True. Well, in that case, I guess property managers.
Okay. So yeah, so you know, and so you want to build that customer in your mind. And it's even one of those things where you want to be able to close your mind, like I talked to you about with the salesperson. You want to be able to close your mind and like picture what that person looks like. And then you want to, in your marketing materials and your advertising, you want to target that customer in some way. Because what will end up happening is if you can get that customer, it helps with all the other business, right? So for you guys, what is like a target? I know that there is a list of target customers Amanda's got, and we're going to go after them. But what do you guys see as what's an ideal customer for you? Someone who just takes your numbers and shuts up.
Someone who keeps the receipts, turns on all their stuff.
Yeah, has like good records, is open to communication, can be easily reached.
Yeah.
Is not questioning everything that we're doing and like looking over our shoulders, either metaphorically or in reality.
Right.
That's interesting. Why do you think that there are going to be customers that are like, or clients that are like that?
I mean, I understand that that there are going to be people like that because, like, you know, we're not directly handling their money, but we're handling the information about their money.
Sure.
And they're concerned about that, and they want to make sure that we are like accurate in presenting their information accurately.
Yeah, so I can probably speak to this a little bit. Is especially with accounting. You ever gone to the dog shelter and like went pet dogs, and some of those dogs are like skittish? It's because they were treated poorly.
Right.
And so they've had accounting of situations in the past, and it's real delicate.
Right. And we've had that happen before too.
Yeah.
Where people have come in and have gotten burned by
either
like previous accountants, or maybe it's like a coworker who was like, yeah, I know, I've done accounting, like one class in college.
Yeah.
And I'll handle the books, and just shot it to hell.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
It's always the nephew.
Right?
Niece and nephew. It's like, oh, my niece can do this. My nephew can do this. It's like, yeah, well, you can, but why don't you just have them do it and then pay me to actually do it? Because you're going to run into some issues.
So, yeah, I mean, I understand some trepidation where they're coming from, and it's, I don't know.
Yeah. No,
Typically too, our clients are like smaller businesses where they did it, and now trying to hand that baby off is like, I want to give you my baby, but I'm not sure that I really want to. Like,
that's actually a really apt analogy, where it's like they've been doing it. Maybe they've been doing it well, maybe they've been doing it bad, but they've been doing it. And it's sort of like when you give your kid off to somebody else to take care of them while you go out on your date or whatever it is. You're nervous about it. It usually ends up being fine, and usually the kids have a much better time with the babysitter with you. What is it you're selling? Now in your case, what is it you guys are selling?
It's a service. Yeah,
it's a service. It's a accounting service.
It's like a peace of mind.
Peace of mind. That's actually a much better way to say it. You're selling a peace of mind.
Amanda said that before.
That's fantastic. Yeah, she's smart.
Yeah.
And you guys are selling.
I would go with the peace of mind.
Yeah.
Well, personally.
Yeah. And what was funny was when I was in talking to them about the add-ons, which I don't know if that ever added anything, but we tried. but the big thing is that they wanted to get in and like just finish and get on to the next thing. And I'm like, but you've got an opportunity to actually help the customer feel really good about the visit.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to do. And so that's, yeah. You need to know what it is you're selling and what it's going to do for your customer. That's the really big thing, or your client, is understanding all of that stuff. And how well do you know it? Now, I'm assuming you guys know a lot about what you do.
No, I totally don't.
Oh, even better.
I was like, I feel
Definitely want you handling my account.
I'm learning Cantonese. Like, I took it in college, but I'm
how hard can it be? It's just addition and
right.
subtraction.
I'm kind of
right?
the like, I don't know, the easier stuff gets given to me. But we have our Cantonese professionals.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's actually a really good dynamic, and I love it when. And I said this before. I don't know is a complete sentence, and saying I don't know is totally fine if it's followed up with, and let's find out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's it. People love that, and nobody wants you to think too much, right?
Right.
They want you to know. They don't want you to think, right?
Like, that's a really good question. I'm going to find out the answer for you.
Yeah, something along those lines of just, you got me, but you know what? I have resources to be able to find it. But also, it's also really good to know your product and know your service. It's good to be able to go and say that, but you should always be learning every single. As 25 years doing sales, every week I listen to a new sales book. I read sales blogs. Do I love sales that much? I do, but I have other things I'd like to read too, but I spend a lot of time learning and learning and learning because it's only going to get me better. And it's going to get me better at doing this connection of what the customer actually needs to the things that I can actually offer. Who else does what you do? Do you know your competitors in the area? You do. Not off the top of your head.
No.
It's good to know. The reason you want to know who your competitors are is if you can't service somebody, I want you to do the Macy's gimbal thing. Do you know what I mean by that?
It's Miracle on 34th Street.
Yeah. If someone comes to you and you try your best to help them, but you can't, it's good to know who your competitor is that is either worse than you. You don't want to send them to the one that, if there's another like accounting firm that is way better than you, never refer customers to them, right? Same thing with plumbing. You don't want to say, hey, go to something if they're really, really good, but you want to be able to refer them to somebody else if they need to. But the other big thing is when you know what other people's strengths and weaknesses are, you can play to those. If they're stronger than you at something, you have something that you can target. And maybe that's something that you can take for yourself or completely let go of and let them have that business. And you focus on the things that are really strong for you. There's a lot of different strategies you can take here, but it's really important to understand who else is out there. Like for you, who's a big competitor for you?
Love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big competitor.
Yeah.
Volcott.
Yeah.
There's a couple. There's a lot of plumbers out there.
There is a lot of plumbers out there. And a lot of them are small too.
Yeah, there's a lot of really small ones. So those are just a couple of the bigger ones.
Yeah, it's really the bigger ones that you guys really concern yourselves with, and you guys have services that they don't offer.
This is true, and that's the strength that we try to play to.
Yeah,
it's like, well, they don't do this.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think it's great, and I think that's the thing that got me really interested in Apollo, working with you guys actually. What is the most valuable resource to anybody?
Water. We all need water.
We do all need water. Air.
Yeah.
Right? Knowledge. What else do you think? Besides the obvious, like the 6 things you absolutely need.
Most valuable resource to anyone.
So I had both my daughters take this class a couple weeks ago. And we had a couple different like money or this or that or water. And she goes, Well, according to the next 3 lines, it's time.
Ah,
And I was like, yes, you're right.
that's hilarious.
Way to save it. Thank you for just cutting to it. So the most valuable resource to anybody is time. You know
That's
why? You can never make time back. You can make money back. Can't make time back.
So true.
So
Right.
that's the most valuable resource. And keeping that in mind when you're talking to a client, when you're talking to anybody, is super important. Always thank them for their time. It is
Right.
very important to thank them for their time. But for yourself, how do you prepare so that you make sure that your time is always spent valuably? Is schedule your time properly. Now, I'm a big fan, and I started to adopt a lot of the getting things done. God, I can never remember the guy's name who wrote the book. David Allen Greer. That sounds right. He wrote a book called Getting Things Done, and it's just this like, hey, this is how you manage your schedule. This is how you do this thing. And so I use my calendar primarily for most of the things that I do. And I try to make sure that every day on the calendar, there is something, right? One event, one meeting, one something going on. And the reason for that is that I don't want to overbook, and I also want to make sure that every day I'm accomplishing something towards what I'm trying to do. Don't try to schedule too many things in one single day. What ends up happening?
It's a mess.
It's a mess, right? And you've scheduled an hour for somebody, and all of a sudden they're taking an hour and a half. And now you're 5 minutes away from that next meeting. I've done this in my career, both as a buyer and a seller. I have done this and really angered some people. So it's really important to manage that. Give yourself ample time to get from one place to another, or ample time between one project and another, and a meeting and another. There's nothing worse than when you have to make that phone call, like, hey, I'm an hour behind, because now you've lost an hour for that particular client. Show up on time. Show up on time. If you can get there early, if you're one of those people.
I was gonna say, and on time is really 5 to 10 minutes early. Because if you're on time, you're
Right.
late.
Yeah, it's true. So whatever makes you the most comfortable as far as being on time. So if it's 5 to 10 minutes ahead of time, for my all my kids for some reason are way better than I am. They're like, hey, I want to be there half hour early, and I'm like, whoa,
Right.
I gotta drive you.
Time. Like, if I'm not in time for previews at a theater, I'm cranky.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, if you miss the
It gives me
previews, yeah.
stress.
And you have to have popcorn in
I
hand
gotta
when you sit.
sit down
And
ready
with good seat.
before the thing starts.
Like off an angle. And stuff.
Ooh, you know what I found out?
Oh.
Just real quick aside. Here's a pro tip. 4th of July is a great day to go see movies.
This is true.
There
Holidays in
was
general.
nobody in the theater for Spider-Man. We got smack dab in the middle. Boom, right there. It was wonderful.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Did not know that. People go watch fireworks.
Weird.
I see that on my computer screensaver. And then when you're there, make sure you set your intentions. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about this in a little bit, but when you're talking with the client, when you're doing anything, a lot of times I'll see a lot of salespeople just kind of be like chatty, super chatty. Let's chat. Let's talk. Blah, 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 blah. And what that is them delaying the sales process because they have no idea why they're there. Set the intention right away. When I have a coffee meeting with somebody, it's like, hey, with the manager, I was like, hey, let's talk a little bit about, how we can refer business to one another. And then if I can help you, that'd be great. And then we started talking, and you're here. Thank you. So it's just about setting an intention. And I think that gets lost very often. If you've got it in your mind, I know why I'm calling this person. I need to talk to this person about their receipt management, because these people are terrible at receipts, and I need to have this very serious conversation with them. And it does not mean you call them and be like, look, idiot, you got to get your receipts in order. You don't want to do that, because that's, they still pay you.
Right.
You want to do it and just say, hey, I would like to talk to you about receipts. Can we have that discussion right now? If not, when would be a good time to have that discussion? And just set the intention of it, because otherwise people will flee pain. They do not like pain, so they go away from it as fast and quickly as possible. So make sure you're setting that intention. It's very important. SMART goals. Is anybody in here familiar with a SMART goal? What a SMART goal is?
Sustainable, manageable, attainable.
Yeah, you're close.
I'm so close.
You're so
It's like,
close.
what are the other ones?
So it's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and it's on a timetable. Okay. So it's summertime. I've gained a little bit of weight. I want to lose 10 pounds. Is that a good goal?
Mm-hmm. Sorry, the R
By
was
when?
realistic.
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 Yeah.
Summer, you want to lose 10 pounds.
Yeah.
By when?
Now. I want to lose it now.
No, that's not healthy.
That's not a good one, right? So what's a quick, easy way to lose 10 pounds?
Cut off a part?
Yes, exactly. Cut off a part of my body. That you can. Is it realistic?
No.
No. Is it attainable? Not really.
What was the T?
Time.
Time.
On a timetable. So that is how most sales goals are set up, right? Most goals for companies are like, we want to build. I worked for a company, and their thing was, we want to do 10% more than we did last year. And I was always like, you guys are idiots, because every other year you're guaranteed to pay max out bonuses to most of your low performers. Because what happens, they tank the sales one year and then come out of it the next and look like superstars.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
You don't think salespeople do that? They absolutely do that.
That is so unethical.
I've never been in sales, so I wouldn't actually have a reference for that. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
well, I mean,
that makes sense.
You run into a bad year,
right?
And you could really, really work hard to do it, or just go, well, I'm going to be here next year, so I'll just look like a superstar next year. It happens. Because I've had those conversations, sidebar conversations with people. Not good. So SMART goals are a little bit different. Instead of saying, hey, we want to be 10% up, or hey, I want to be 10% down in weight, or 10 pounds anyway. You want to set a SMART goal. So for me, I have a really hard time. I love eating fast food. I do. And especially when I'm rushing around, it's real easy to stop by someplace and just grab a burger or whatever. Also, that new burrito shop, have you eaten that?
Oh my gosh. More than once.
Anyway, so a SMART goal would be, I'm going to get real specific. What is it that's causing me to gain the weight? It's fast food, right? That's what's doing it. Measurable. I'm going 2 or 3 times a week. What's the right amount of times I should be going? Is it attainable? Yes. I just need to prep a little bit. I need to make lunch ahead of time. Is it realistic? Yes. Timetable. So I'm going to do this for the next 5 weeks, right? No fast food for the next 5 weeks. I'm going to make my lunches at home. All of that stuff is absolutely attainable. It's measurable. It's specific. Can I do it? We'll see. That's the answer I'd give you. But that's what's the difference between a SMART goal and those dumb goals that we mostly get. So for instance, if we wanted to raise sales 20%, I've actually had this conversation. It's like, well, how do you do it? Well, I sell 20% more. And it's like, well, duh, thanks. How are you going to do it? Well, I don't know. I'm going to work harder. You ever heard that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to work harder. No, you're not. You're going to work harder for this amount of time, and the rest of the time you're going to complain because it didn't give you any benefit. You didn't get any results out of it. So instead, if you want to raise your sales 20%, how do you do it? Well, what are other things that you offer that you could offer to your existing customers? This was the discussion we had at Apollo, which is, hey, you're there already. How do you add this extra $40 service that's so awesome? They have a non-chemical chemical that can go into the drains and clear them out. And it's $40, and it works incredibly well, and it's not toxic. It's amazing.
BioLine.
Yeah, BioLine. So you get the BioLine, and then all of a sudden your sinks are clean and they're not killing fish. It's neat, right? How do we get a customer who's paying $129 to spend an extra $40 on that? Guess what we just did? You just raised your sales 25%. And that's what we needed to do, is we needed to figure out how to get more of that service. For you guys, maybe it's the services. Do you want to take immediately? Do you want to get 25 more clients? No, that sounds awful, right? You don't want to take 25 more clients, because that's 25 more people that are going to call you. That's 25% more receipts you have to hunt down. It's 25%. No, take your existing customers. How do we build them up another 25% or 20%? Is we find other things that we can maybe help them with. And you guys have a ton of things that you offer. And it's just a matter of, how do I do this in a way that's going to be beneficial for them and beneficial for us? So I see you guys are in sales. You just didn't realize. And last thing is do you look the part? Now, this is going to be a little bit different, because you guys are all behind the scenes type people.
We still have clients
Show up.
who come in for
Yeah.
meetings occasionally,
Yeah.
or Amanda will have people come in for meetings for her, but I mean, we're still like there. So
Yeah.
she just wants to be like all schlevy and
Yeah, you don't want to.
Levy.
Yeah,
Google that word.
Yeah, well, I think it would be the picture of Dennis Nedry from Jurassic Park,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's what I always picture, is like, you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The computer programmer in Jurassic Park.
got, like
Schlubby?
food wrappers
Is that
what- Yeah.
all over his desk.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gross. Yeah, you don't want to be that guy. So here's the thing: is like, when you do sales now, if I came to this meeting and I was wearing a tuxedo, how would you have felt?
Kind
Awkward.
of uncomfortable.
Yeah, super uncomfortable, right? Yeah, it would have been really bad. I remember I walked into the Apollo meeting one day, and they were like, look at Mr. Fancy wearing a suit. Literally what they said. And I was like, I am wearing blue jeans and a t-shirt.
Wow.
I only put this like $99 blazer on.
Yeah.
That was it. Like, I may be overdressed.
I will wear the almost exact same outfit for when I have to go do something special or something. You know, if I feel like I'm going to be with more uppity people, then I'll
Yeah.
dress it up a little bit with like just a blazer.
Yeah.
So it's so funny.
Yeah. I was like, well,
Somebody like, ooh, so fancy.
I was like, well, I mean, you wouldn't go out and do plumbing like this. And I was like, no, but I certainly would not expect you to do sales in that. I'm a sales guy. I'm not a plumber. So our roles are different. You get paid more than I do. Let's face it. So you want to look the part, and that's not like, you don't want to go way overboard and you don't want to go way underboard. So for instance, if I was selling to you, this is about how I would dress, because we're equal. I feel like this is pretty equal. Blue jeans.
It's approachable.
It's approachable. It's nice and simple. If I was selling 45-foot yachts, I don't know, do they come in 45-foot varieties?
I haven't looked lately.
No?
Yeah.
Well, if I was selling 45-foot yachts, I probably would wear that tux, and I would, speak a little nicer. I don't know what that accent is. That's not an impersonation of anything.
Yep.
And if I was selling over at Ross, what do I wear?
Whatever's trending.
Right.
Jeans and that vest, right? Because they want people identifiable, right?
Right.
So it really depends on where you're shopping, or who's your client, who's coming to you, how you want to dress. You don't want to dress way above them, because it's intimidating. You don't want to. If I came in and I was wearing Bermuda, cut off jean shorts and a Hawaiian shirt, you'd probably expect me to play some Jimmy Buffett for you, as opposed to showing you anything about sales. And you probably couldn't take me seriously if I was wearing that. So I want to wear something that's appropriate so that you guys feel comfortable with that. That's all I mean by looking the part. And here's the thing. What's anybody's first impression? It is visual.
Mhm.
It's visual is your first impression, and so much all the pre-programming people have in their lives really come to the surface when they see you. For instance, you don't have a neck tattoo, do you? I can't see your neck.
What? No, I don't have any tattoos.
No tattoos.
No.
Oh, you're a unicorn like myself. I see a neck tattoo, and the first thing I think is you're an ex-con.
Mhm.
Is it? Look, I can't help it. It is pre-programmed into me. And so I struggle when I see someone with a neck tattoo. I'm like,
Be careful.
right? A little bit. Is that accurate? No, it's a bias.
Right.
But why have any biases when you're trying to sell something to anybody? I don't want to challenge anybody. I want to make them feel comfortable, confident, so that they can make a decision. So that's why I say dress the part. Whatever that part is, make sure you're dressing it. Great. So that's showing up and kind of just being prepared. Now we're going to get into, does anybody take a break? Great. We want to engage with the customer, and this is where we actually take some action. So what is your job as a salesperson?
To sell. Wait.
Oh yeah,
Wait, wait, hold on.
confidence.
Build the customer's confidence
To
to
a
a point where they can make a
decision.
decision.
Yes.
Correct. Okay, good. Yes, and I put that in there because really it is something you need to remember, is that is your job, is just make them feel good, make them feel confident. They make the best decision for themselves at all times, no matter how stupid that decision is. I want to talk a little something about rapport. Do you guys know what rapport is?
Yeah.
Yeah? What is rapport?
It's going back and forth between two people.
It is,
It
yes.
can be good or it can be bad.
It can be good or bad. And rapport in like a sales situation, what would be good rapport versus bad rapport?
I trust that you have my intentions versus your own.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's really good.
I like when someone's respectful and they don't talk down to me like, oh, I'm the expert, you're stupid.
Yeah.
That's not gonna fly.
Yeah, respect is a big thing. I think that's very good. Yeah.
What?
Oh, those shoes are fantastic. I love those shoes. What is that? Is that rapport?
No,
No. Why?
you're just complimenting.
Yeah. Hey, you don't have any tattoos? Me neither, man. Like I sometimes like it's so weird in the Portland area to not have any tattoos. The rapport?
Feels kind of disingenuous.
It's not. It's a conversation.
Yeah.
We have a lot of conversations in sales, and that does not build rapport. Rapport is designed to do one thing and one thing only. Remember when I first started this class, you guys trusted me. You came in, maybe you're getting paid for it. This is a good little break for you. But you came in and you trusted that I was going to talk about something good. But what was the first thing I did to really kind of hit home that I am qualified to talk about what I'm doing?
You told us about yourself.
I did. I told you specific things that were regarding this class and why it's worthwhile to come and spend with it. After I did that introduction, how did you feel about taking this class?
Good.
Yeah, a little bit more confident, which is exactly what that is. That was me building rapport with you. Rapport is designed to help the customer understand why they want to deal with you. Now, sometimes it's good to bring up like, hey, nice shoes. And having a conversation with the customer is 100% okay. But really what we're doing with rapport is we're giving that customer that extra boost of, this is why I get to deal with you. Why you're going to be happy working with me versus anybody else. Once you establish rapport, then you can go off the rails. It's fine. But once you have to establish it, and sometimes rapport takes all the way through the end of the sale before you can start having those types of conversations. And I'll tell you this, you'll see salespeople and you'll have those interactions with salespeople where they just want to talk and chat and blah, blah, blah. And it's because they're delaying it. And why are they delaying it? Because they don't feel super confident in their ability to service you. Right? And honestly, time is the most important thing. I want to know why I want to deal with you right off the bat. And it's not because you're nice to my shoes. And the other thing is you'll see customers, and a lot of times customers will start gabbing with you, and they're trying to get away from any sort of other thing. And what's the deal with that? Why are they doing that? Because they're delaying the pain of having to pay you and delaying the pain of having to make a decision. So we want to give them a lot of reasons why they want to stay engaged in this process. And we want to set that intention very early, because if we do it, people tend to follow. Again, we'll get to that point. All right, so the other thing we need to do is we need to start asking questions of customers. And this is like the big action. Boy, what a boring movie that would make, right? I watched John Wick. That movie's
Yeah.
great, by the way. A lot of action, but like in a sales movie, it's like, well, now we get into the action. So tell me about some of the things that you need. And, it's like boring. So there's a couple different types of things that we need to talk about here. There are two things called qualifying questions and discovery questions. What's a qualifying question? Do you guys know what a qualifying question is? No? Okay, that's totally fine. So a qualifying question, if you think about it, did anybody run track or play any sports? I didn't. I had to play tennis. Perfect. Okay, so when you went and did a tennis tournament, right, they had those brackets and they had all of the people lined up. And then what happened is you played the first series of games. What happened? There were less people, right?
Right.
Not the ones that we play, but I understand what you mean.
Yeah. Okay. So you think about like the Final Four or any sort of like a tournament. It's like you start with all the people.
Qualification rounds.
Yeah.
Right.
So what happens with the qualification rounds is what happens. You're eliminating people. That's exactly what a qualifying question does. A qualifying question eliminates products or services for the customer. Does that make sense? Because it narrows it down. That's exactly what a qualifying question does, is it narrows it down. So knowing that, what are good qualifying questions for your service?
Are you looking for a tax accountant?
What happens if they say yes, you say?
We have people we can refer you to.
Perfect. Yeah. That's a phenomenal qualifying question because it eliminates those people that you can't service anyway. Gets them over to the right people. That's great. So there's probably like 5 or 6 of those questions that you can ask to really narrow down and get right down to the nitty-gritty of what is it that you actually need. And that's the trick, is finding those questions. For plumbing, can you think of any qualifying questions?
I have one that I think is good that I will ask people periodically, and it is, do you clean your bathtub? And they usually answer yes. And I say, well, you do that because you see the scum and you want to get rid of that scum. But the thing is, that scum that you're getting rid of on your bathtub is still collecting in your pipes. So if you really want to get rid of that scum that's been building for years and years and years, call us and have us clean it out for you.
Yeah.
We can jet it, or we can use the bioline.
Yeah, that's good.
Bam.
That's good. That's great.
Oh my gosh, right here, I'm like, oh, my tub.
Yeah. You guys can exchange cards.
Out of sight, out of mind. Yeah.
So qualifying questions are good for doing that, for really breaking down and getting to the nitty gritty. And that's really, in sales, that's kind of what we're doing, is we're just eliminating all the other options and just getting to the right, perfect option for that customer. The one the customer's going to want. And we'll talk about that later too. There's also another one here called discovery questions. Now, qualifying questions, for instance, if I was to sell a table to somebody, a qualifying question for me would be like, well, how many people are you going to sit? Right? That's a good qualifying question. I need 12. Oh, well, I'll show you a 12-person table. I wouldn't show you a four-person table. That would be stupid, right? We don't want to be stupid. So those are kind of great things. Accounting and plumbing, however,
So different.
I know what a table looks like. I know what a table does. I know what I basically want this table to look like. I know kind of what the colors are that I want the table to be. I know a lot of different things about tables. I'm not an expert, but I'm an expert for tables that I like.
Right.
Accounting, on the other hand, I know bupkis about. I don't know anything about accounting. So when you ask me a lot of questions, think about some of the responses that you're going to get. Same thing with plumbing. A lot of times if you go in and you're like, hey, if the plumbers are in the house already and they're like, hey, what's the gauge on your, plumbing sewage line? It's like, I don't know if that's it. Those guys would have made fun of me. They did. Made fun of me because I didn't know anything about it. You start asking those types of questions, what's the answer the customer's going to give you? Yeah, I don't know. Do you know what the worst answer you can get for any question in a sales situation is? I don't know. You hear I don't know more than once, you're done.
Yep.
The sale is over. Because a yes is great. A no, I can deal with. I can overcome an objection. And I don't know, throw up your hands, wish them well. because they're just going to walk out. I'm not saying that's exactly what you should do, but do not set yourself up for these types of situations. And so those are situations where qualifying questions may not work because they don't know what they want in the first place anyway.
Right.
I'm going to use an example. I sold computers a billion years ago, right? Not a billion years ago, it was 20 plus years ago. And when customers would come in, the first thing I would do is I would say, okay, well, what processor speed are you looking for? Well, do you know how much RAM you're going to need? What size hard drive?
They just want it to work.
Yeah.
Huh? Look at cats.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was before Facebook and kitten pictures. But so here's the thing is, I would start asking these questions and they'd be like, I don't know. Everybody in the early aughts did only one thing with their computer, and that was play solitaire. 90% of customers, when I was like talking to them, they would say, yeah, well, I just play solitaire. What do I need for that? And it's like, the computer you got, like, it's not gonna, the cards aren't gonna bounce any faster.
Right.
So I quickly learned that was not a good strategy because I was selling a lot of low end and not good things to people. And I didn't feel good about what I was doing. So I started like really evaluating. I read some sales books and I realized I should start asking these discovery questions instead. And so this is what happened was I went from asking, hey, tell me about this thing that you don't know about that you need, to asking questions like, have you ever thought about doing video editing? What? Oh yeah, you have a camcorder because you can hook up your camcorder directly to the computer, download all of the video, and then you can actually edit it and make it look really cool. I can do that? Yeah. Well, which computer do I need for that? Now all of a sudden I'm having a conversation about things that they could do. Hey, I noticed you got a 12-year-old kid. Were you thinking about doing, I mean, you can either buy a video game console or they could probably do the gaming right here on the computer. And that way it cuts down on how many things you have in your house, how many gadgets, and you can regulate the time a little bit easier. Would you be interested in that? Yeah. So a discovery question was not about what I was going to learn about the customer. It was what the customer was going to learn about the product. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So can you imagine if you ask questions that let your clients know, hey, this is another service that we offer, and just figuring out how to phrase it that way. What it does is it allows the client or customer to understand what it is that you do beyond what is obvious, right? It's more than just you're selling stuff. It's what other things that you can actually do. And that's the key thing behind a discovery question. And so on those two types of questions, there's open-ended questions and closed-ended questions. And do you know what the difference is between an open and closed?
The open-ended question is more engaging with the customer, and it allows them to like respond as opposed to being like, oh, okay. Yeah,
exactly. So you're creating a dialogue back and forth. Actually, both type of questions can start that. But the open-ended question is really the customer's driving the answer, right? So there were times where a customer would walk in and they'd be like, I need a 23-inch widescreen monitor, and I need very specific this, and this. And it was like, oh, you are a developer. I know exactly how to talk to you. I can ask you open-ended questions, and you can answer them. What size hard drive are you thinking about? How many hard drive bays do you need? I'm probably talking, and you guys are probably, all three of you are probably like, I don't know what you're talking about. Right. But this was something a developer would absolutely be very interested in. So those were the types of the customers you could have those open-ended questions, because the customer knew what they wanted. Now we can just build upon that, right? Most customers don't know what they want. And so when you ask them the open-ended questions, they tend to stop and they say things like, I don't know, which is bad. So close-ended questions are really key. Is this jacket blue?
No.
Is that hard to answer?
No.
No. Now, if I asked you, what color blue is this jacket, what would you say?
Deep blue.
Yeah.
Deep blue? Yeah. It's an open-ended question, right? It's hard to answer because your perception might be different from somebody else's. And do we like to give wrong answers? No. So it's easier to just ask a closed-ended question in a lot of cases. And that's where it was, when I was in the mattress industry, it was really key, because what do you know about mattresses? Nothing. Nothing about mattresses. So when people came in to buy them, they know nothing about mattresses. You start talking about mattresses, guess what they say? I don't know. So you start coming up with questions like, hey, when you wake up in the morning, do you have any pain? Shoulders, hips, lower back? I do. Okay. Now we've got something to go on. So that's the difference between an open-ended and a closed-ended question. Now, qualifying questions can be open and closed. Discovery questions can be open and closed. For the most part, for discovery questions, I really highly suggest sticking to a closed-ended question. Give a customer a this or that option. You've had kids. You ever say, hey, go get dressed, to a 5-year-old. Hey, go get dressed. And you go in and you're like, it's been 20 minutes. You go in and like every piece of clothing is all over the place and they can't figure it out. So I learned and I was like, do you want to wear this one or this one? And it was like, well, I want to wear that one. It's like, great. You made a decision. Now we're good. So that's the difference between an open and closed-ended question. So when you're formulating your questions, that's the thing you want to keep in mind is this going to be a question where a customer can possibly answer, I don't know. And on questions, there's a couple rules I really highly suggest you follow. And the first one is never ask a question you're going to regret the answer to. Does this jacket make me look fat?
No.
That's a good answer. I like that answer. What's the other possibility though?
Yes.
Yes. And then what do I feel? I feel like, I feel really uncomfortable right then. So never ask a question you're going to regret the answer to. And the other thing is never answer a question that hasn't been asked.
Wait, say that again?
Never answer a question that has not been asked.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying with this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think I'm actually going to talk a little bit more about this. Yeah. A little bit later, but if it's, for instance, like if I was selling this table and I was like, and this wood is sourced from blah, 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 from Shangri-La. Do you guys care? You didn't ask. I'm going to tell you this. Now what do you do? But I actually like that table over there a little bit nicer. Where's that wood coming from? Is that from a sustainable wood source now? And now I'm starting to think, and there's two things I hate to see on a sales floor or in a sales process, a sales situation is I do not like to see customers thinking, because if customers are thinking, guess what they're not doing? They're not buying. The other thing I hate to see is I hate to see salespeople thinking, because when salespeople are thinking, they ain't selling. So let's take the thinking out of it. I know that sounds like a little demeaning, but it's not about thinking, because thinking is using your imagination. We don't want to do that. We want to process things, and we want to stay present. That's really what our key thing is. All right, sorry. Okay, so then you get all this information. Now you got to start aligning your offerings to the customer's needs, right? So you got to figure out what is it that you can offer the customer, or client, that's going to help them accomplish whatever their goal is. And some of the goals that we uncovered too, because like clients will come to us and they'll say, hey, I need to get my drain unclogged. And it's like, that's like one little myopic thing to the overall thing that they need to actually get done. So it's through these questions that we can actually find out, hey, what are some other things that we can offer? So you want to make sure that you're aligning your offerings to the customer's needs and understanding that you have the right thing to offer the customer. Sometimes we don't. If I'm looking for tax service, I am not coming to you. When you're talking to them, make sure that it's all about them. Even things such as like figuring out timetables for things. Make sure that it's said in a way that is to their benefit. For instance, like let's say we're 3 weeks out to being able to actually start doing things for them, because we have to now finagle our schedules around, and maybe there's a big job and you need to push it out a little bit because you need supplies for, again, I don't know enough about plumbing, but you get what I'm saying. Like maybe we have to push this out, like making sure that we're saying it in a way that is beneficial to the customer. We want to make sure that we've got all the supplies that we need. In order for us to do that, it's going to take us 3 weeks. Maybe it only takes us 2, but we tell them 3. And then we'll have all the proper equipment, all the proper materials. We'll be able to come in and do a great job for you. So just make sure it's always about them. And the most important thing is during this process, after we ask all these questions, after we figure all this stuff out, is it a good fit? You know how much respect you gain from a customer if you tell them, I can't service you, but I can suggest somebody who can? It's huge. It's what happens is that Macy's Gimbals thing. Notice Macy's is still around. Gimbals is not. I don't know why, but part of me thinks that there is something about that movie that when people watch that movie and they saw that they could go to Macy's first, and then the Santa Claus would be like, no, Gimbals has it cheaper, go to Gimbals, buy it there. There's something to that people still, to this day, go to Macy's first. And here's the thing is, I remember in that movie, the Santa Claus is there, and the line is going out the door, right? And they're complaining, the management are like, well, he can't say that about Gimbals. He can't tell people to go to Gimbals. Because now people are leaving Macy's to go to Gimbals. And it's like, did you just hear what you said? They came here first. This is the big trick. This is the big thing that you want to become, is you want to be the first person people come to. Right. And then you get to, if all else fails, then you lose the business. I'd rather lose business than never get the opportunity. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So make sure your product is going to offer enough value to the customer. And if your prices are too high, hey, Mr. Macy's, lower your price. Have them stay here. You get the first chance to help that person. But make sure that what you're offering is actually going to be useful to the customer. Undercoating on a car, useful? No.
No idea what undercoating is.
Yeah, exactly. Because that was a practice that ended. I watched Fargo recently.
Oh yeah, True Coat.
Yeah, True Coat. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I was like that. Oh, we spray the underneath with blah blah blah. So I worked I worked with a company that was a furniture company, and I was like, oh, so what's this Scotch Guard or whatever? Yeah. They were like, I don't know. We never do it. We take the money for it, but we never do anything to it.
Oh my God.
They do it at the factory. Every product comes with that stuff.
Wow. I'm
like,
pretty mad.
I know.
Sure I paid for that.
Pretty sure I paid for that.
And is there something amiss? Is in your product offerings, do you not have something that's going to completely satisfy the customer? And again, in that case, for tax services, it's great to have somebody else that you can go, hey, we do that. They can do that. I can't. Carpentry might be a thing. Like you get underneath there and you find out there's wood rot. That's not something you guys do. Maybe you have a partner to do that with. Okay. So that's engaging. Next thing we want to do is we want to actually listen to the customer. Oh my God, this is the worst part of sales. Why? Listening to customers. They're dumb. They don't know anything about what they're talking about. So thankfully. Well, yeah, a little bit, but also I'm blatantly mean in this situation. I'm incredibly kind when I'm in that situation because I am sympathetic. Right. Not sympathetic. I'm empathetic with the customer. Don't ever be sympathetic. Oh, you don't want to ever do that. You want to be empathetic. Like, oh man, I get it. Yeah. But listening to customers is actually pretty painful, and it's the part of the job that really can wear on people. Because do clients, customers always have like wonderful, sparkling things to say about everything? Yeah. No. And usually they've screwed up something. They now want to blame anybody but themselves, so they're going to blame us, right? So we have to find good ways to listen and try to do our best not to roll our eyes. Rolling your eyes is absolutely the worst thing, though. Mm-hmm. I have rolled my eyes once in the last 20 years since I found out how bad eye rolling was, and it was something my daughter said, and I rolled my eyes and I was like, ah, you broke my streak. So how do we let customers know we're listening? Well, there's something called active listening. And how would you define active listening?
My husband hates this because I'll listen to him and I'm like, so what I heard you say was,
Yeah,
like to paraphrase back what I actually heard.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's absolutely, yeah. And that's one of the other steps in here is make sure you're paraphrasing.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to make sure you're engaged. You're looking somebody in the eye. You know, you're nodding appropriately and not just nodding. That's not good, right?
Right.
You know, and be inquisitive, right? If there's a prompt for a question and you actually have a question, ask the question. That helps the customer know that you're listening. One of the other things is if you've ever done any sort of a public speaking, or if you've ever done talking to somebody and they're taking notes, there's nothing better than when somebody writes down something that you've said. Have you ever had that experience? It feels good. Yes, I love it. Like it warms the cockles of my heart. I don't know what a cockle is, but it warms it when I see that people are writing things down, because it does lend some credency to. So I have an iPad, right? And I used to take notes on my phone. But here's the problem with it, is that when I'm taking notes on my phone, what does it look like I'm doing?
It's like you're basically
Anything
or
else.
something.
Right. So I went ahead and bought an iPad with the Apple Pencil. Talk about a complete game change. When I'm taking notes now,
Right.
people feel empowered. They feel great. So one of the things I suggest is either paper and put pen to paper when you're listening to somebody. It makes people feel like you're really, really listening.
Right.
Body posture. And I don't mean like be stiff or, square those shoulders. What I mean is body posture is more about like, and this goes along with mirroring, is you want to make sure you've got the similar amount of energy, and you want to be as similar as possible to your customer and their level of engagement. So as far as body posture goes, if the customer is like walking away from you because you're too close, maybe it's time to stop walking forward. Find out what people's level of personal space is. I don't know if you've ever seen that Rick and Morty cartoon with it. No? There's a funny thing about personal space. But personal space is a big deal. And if a customer comes in and they're quiet, you make sure you're not overly bombastic. If a customer comes in and is bombastic, give them every bit of space to be able to be bombastic, and you don't have to equal them because they need to feel that importance, but give them the space to be able to do it, right? Make them feel empowered to do it, because that's what makes them feel good. You mentioned paraphrasing. Now, if I'm not mistaken, it sounded like you had conversations with your husband and he talks to you and then you paraphrase back to him. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, but sometimes he's like, don't do it like that, because he thinks I'm shrinking him or whatever, and I'm not, but yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe you're not doing it in a way that works for him. So it
might have been sarcastic.
Yeah, it's probably true.
It's possible.
So let me understand this. All right. You don't want to do that. You want to paraphrase in a way that's, I just did it with you.
That's not
right. Yeah. So you want to do it in a natural way that's, hey, it sounds like you need blah, blah, blah. Hey, it sounds like you need some HR services that you can't currently do in your company. I would love to be able to help you out with that. You mentioned this, and this, and now what if we added blah, 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 and would not make it even easier for you? Mirroring is a lot of what I talked about with like dress. Make sure you're dressing properly. If someone comes in and or you're talking to somebody and they're loud on a phone. You ever have that loud person on the phone, right?
Why do they have to be so loud?
Why do they have to be so loud?
I never understand that.
They probably have hearing issues.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think in general, when people are on the phone, their voice volume
is
louder than if you're just right in the same room with somebody.
So my sister, is a perfect example.
Or they can.
Super loud on the phone because she can't hear people on the phone. So she's really loud on the phone. And it's like, turn up the phone, right?
Yeah.
But if they're really loud, hey, can you hear me okay? Is a good way to check, right? So just if you don't want to speak really loud, like that's a good way to just kind of find out. So you just want to mirror somebody else's. And always make sure you're communicating for the customer. And we hit that a little bit earlier too, is make sure when you're talking to them, it's their needs, it's their timetables. If you can't meet it, make sure you're communicating in a way that's beneficial to them. Even if it's not beneficial to them, make it beneficial to them. We want to hold off on this because, we don't want to, instead of saying like, hey, we need to hold off for 3 weeks because our schedule is crammed. We are so popular right now. We're great. Doing it in a way that's, hey, we really want to focus on your business. And the best time frame for us to do that is 3 weeks from now. Is that okay with you?
That's nice.
It sounds nicer, right? As a customer, what would you like to hear? Your business isn't all that important to us. We can hold off for 3 weeks. Right. Or, look, we really want to focus on it. This is how it's going to go.
I like it.
And what does your customer want to hear? When you're talking to them, when you're asking questions, you're building the rapport, you're having even a conversation. How is it that they want to hear the information back? Now, accounting, when I say analytical, what does that mean to you?
They want precise. This is where your numbers are. This is,
yeah. And I would imagine a lot of times that's the kind of answer your customer is going to really kind of require, not just want, but like need.
Right.
So you answer in an analytical way. Number, parameter. Receipts in one place. Right? Very analytical. Relational is a little bit different. So you might actually run into Apollo probably in general runs into a little bit of both. People don't know a lot about plumbing, and so when they call, there's
a problem.
They know there's a problem. So you're going to have more relational type responses, right? And it's going to be, maybe you've got an analytical like, hey, we can be out there in 2 hours, which is kind of amazing, right? That's 2 hours. That would be more analytical. They'll be there ready to take care of you, and will try to accomplish everything that they need to get done in that time frame, in this time frame. And that's more of a relational thing, putting the customer's mind at ease about it, right? Making it more personable. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
HR issues would be more about this, right? More relational as opposed to analytical. Well, you hired that person 28 days ago. You have 2 days left to fire them, right? Like that's more of like an analytical. In some cases, it's going to be the case, but in some cases is, hey, it sounds like that customer's been there or that employee's been there for 28 days. Do you think that this is going to be a relationship that you're going to be able to salvage because you still have 2 days to opt out of hiring them on full time? More relational, which is probably for personnel issues more important. Good. And then again, I'm going to go back to this. Connecting your product or service to the needs and wants of the customer is really kind of key. This is where the rubber meets the road for sales in every aspect, is making sure you're making that great connection. And I've got a question for you real quick. What's more important, a want or a need?
Well, you wouldn't want them to want that need.
Yeah, right.
I don't know that they're necessarily inseparable, but
well,
yeah, I mean,
I'll
guess which one's worse, which one's better.
Which one's more important?
More important.
And for you, as when you're talking to a client or a customer, what's more important?
And for sales, it's going to be the want.
It is.
Because they want what they want.
Right. I would say in life that's the case. Have you ever ridden the Max? Like go on the Max, and next time, hopefully you feel safe enough that you can stop panicking, looking back and forth, and look at people's shoes. They're riding the Max, right? But man, some of the nicest shoes I've seen are on the Max. So wants definitely in a lot of cases outweigh needs in most cases. So we want to really address the customer's wants. Look, they need accounting services, but what they want is they want to be able to go fishing on a weekly basis. And if we took off the HR stuff from their plate too, would that allow them to be able to do that? Yes. Now, if we can paint that picture, oh my goodness. All of a sudden, getting that extra 25% business is super easy because it's with that existing customer. We didn't have to spend any money getting that customer. And now all of a sudden, we're giving them something really, really compelling. We'll address their needs. Needs are easy to address. When I was doing the training for mattresses, I would say all the time, I would ask this question and they would say, well, needs. And it's like, okay, so when you need a bed, what do you buy?
The
cheapest bed. That's a need. You can accomplish that. But what do people want? They want a really nice bed. They want something that they can get really great sleep on. So what's more important? Oh, I guess it's the wants. Yeah, so talk to the wants, not the needs. Okay, good. All right, you've done everything correctly. You've built the rapport. You got their attention. We've learned enough about what they need. We've been able to really kind of create this connection between what the customer wants and what we can offer, right? And now we need to make our offer. And this is whether we're making a bid or we're making whatever it is, the thing we want to do is we want to make sure we're thorough. And one of the things you can do is you can always make a case for a big bid, or you can make a case for over servicing somebody by saying, we'll start here, and then if we need to get rid of some of this stuff, as you go through the bid, as you're going through the offer, customers will tell you, customers and clients will say, we don't need that. And here's the thing I want you to do. Okay, and cross it off. Don't fight. Let the customer make those decisions because they're seeing a price tag and they're freaking out. And then you go through it and you want to make sure that you're offering the best scenario to the customer. Recently I have a bid into standard TV and appliance. We're almost done. Standard TV and appliance for $40,000 for a training program for them. And they can afford it. I know. I used to work for them. But the thing is I think $40,000 is too much to buy it off. So in the bid, I made sure I put things that were just way over and above what they needed. I knew that going in, that they should never pay me $40,000. The problem is that they are sitting on this bid looking at it as a $40,000 bid, even though I sat there with the general manager and I was like, well, is there anything in here that doesn't look like you need it? And he was like, no. And I was like, oh no, I did this wrong. Because I wanted them to go through and say, we need to get rid of this, we need to get rid of this, we need to get rid of this. I was expecting that.
You were highballing them.
I was giving, I'm not necessarily highballing them, but I was giving them like
the full package.
Like I made up stuff that would make their lives easier that they didn't even consider. Because I wanted to give them the best possible scenario. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If a customer balks at a price, guess what you get to do? Well, let's find a way to lower the price. Who's going to say no to that?
Yeah.
Everybody goes, oh yeah, you can lower the price. Yes. We're not going to do this, this, and this to get that to that price, but we'll get there. And also, if you make an offer, and I did this with Apollo. I made an offer, and they took it. What did I do? I left money on the table because if they took the offer, it was, oh, there's no challenge there. So I always suggest make the best possible scenario. Actually, it was the best possible scenario. I couldn't think of anything else to add.
Well, that's good.
But you give them the best scenario and then reduce as needed. The big key here is do not shame. If you give a package and you're like, we'll do the accounting and we'll do the HR and all of this other stuff, and the customer goes, well, we just can't afford the HR stuff right now. It's like, do not go, well, you know,
Hope you don't get sued.
your competitor can. We can just go over there. No, it's just like, great. Well, we'll make sure that we take care of that now. And I'll tell you what, if at any point you want us to do the HR stuff, we are totally available to do that. And we'll see what we can do as far as making sure it's easiest for you. And everything must be intentional. When you give an offer, when you give a bid, everything on there has to be pertained to the customer and something that's actually going to benefit them in the long run. Something sustainable. Always remember that word. If the customer says yes, agree on payment terms. Not a good idea to start work on something until you've got a check. For me, it's 50% upfront, 50% at the end of the deliverables. I think that's super important. Set timetables and due dates immediately. Mm-hmm. And that's for your benefit. That's for their benefit. Because, when you set those timetables, guess what customers don't do? When is it? When are you getting that to me? Dude, I told you 2 weeks from now on Thursday, I would have this, this, and this. Oh, yeah. Okay. Communicate with your customer. If something's going to go awry and it's going to take longer, pick up the phone, let them know. Send them an email too. Do both. Mm-hmm. I don't actually know why people want phone calls anymore. I get a phone call, I'm like, oh, great. Can you email that information to me? But I guess there's something to that connection.
Yeah, I know that a lot of, that being able to actually talk to somebody, I know for some people is a lot more important than receiving just text on a screen.
Yeah.
Either
it's more personable. Yeah. And that gets into more of the relational sales as opposed to the transactional sales. Right. And it's a relationship building. And I have to change my mind frame because I hate talking on the phone.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. I mean, it's just something about it. It's just like, I can't stay as engaged as I want to. So I have to change it to, I have to call them to, hey, I get to call them. And even that little bit of a mind shift helps. So, and give them a reason to contact you again. Hey, if you know anybody else that could benefit from our services, let me know. Hey, it was really great talking to you. Hey, do you mind if I call you in a week? Just get back in contact with them for whatever reason, because the more you contact them, the more you're top of mind, the more you're likely to get references and those types of things. Hey, if the customer doesn't take the offer, kick them in the rear, get them out of your office. No, don't do that. Thank them for their time. Again, most valuable resource. You want to make sure you do that. Offer your assistance in the future. So the weird things that have happened to me in the past, I've actually had customers call the store I was at and let me know, hey, thank you so much for, helping us out. We ended up buying at some other place. Why are you calling me? What is the reason that you're calling me? Well, they liked me. So what does that mean in the future? Hopefully the Macy's situation happens and they come to me first. So always offer your assistance. Well, that's great. I'm glad you were able to find the thing that you were looking. I'm glad you bought that mattress online. That's great. But I tell you what, if that doesn't end up working out, or if you ever have any questions, or you ever have any friends or family that are looking for anything, please give me a call. You got my contact info, obviously, because you called. And then ask if you can follow up with a week. So I can't tell you also how many times someone has said, I'm going to make a decision, go someplace else. It's like, okay, can I get your contact information? Can I get your card? And you call them back in a week and go, hey, how did that transaction go? And how many times I've heard, oh, we didn't actually end up doing it. Oh, so you're still interested? I can throw in some pillows, or I can, how about if I come and meet you for a coffee, my treat, and all of a sudden now you're back in the game again. So never count that out. That's the blueprint. So I know that there's a lot of information in there. So what do you do with this is, hey, you sat through this. Thank you so much. You're going to pick up a little bit of it. If it does seem something of interest to you, the whole idea behind the WOW experience is we take all the blanks and we fill them specifically for you. The class size is limited, but it's great because we get some cross-pollination. And it's not $1 million. It's a $250 class. and it is 8 hours, 2 hours over 4 weeks, and you get out of there and you have all this information for yourself, which is pretty cool. But if you can do me a favor, this last page is just a feedback page. If you want to quickly fill it out, I'll leave the room so you don't have to stare at me while you're doing it. But if you want to just quickly fill out some information, I'd really appreciate it.